So a couple of months ago, I uploaded a reptile room tour video, and I got a few comments on that of where's Mushu, where's the Calotes Virsicolour, where's that lizard that you rescued not so long ago. So for those who don't know, Mushu is a Calotes Virsicolour lizard, and he's classed as a wild stowaway. Just to keep you all updated on that one. But this story, Mushu's story, started around, well, quite a while ago, shall we say. And the partner at the time, she saw a picture on Facebook. Does anybody know what this is? She sent it to me while I was at work. So had a little break, had a look. I just messaged back. I think it's like a juvenile mountain horn dragon or sort of a Calotes lizard, or just something like that. Just being dead vague. She replied to the post. Perfectly fine, left it a day. The next day, she gets a little message in her inbox. I don't really know how Facebook works too much because I'm not on it, but she gets a little message in her inbox. Do you want it? Okay then. We arranged to pick it up the next night. So we had just over 24 hours to figure out not only what is this exact species, the requirements of this exact species. Now, we didn't know where it had come from. We didn't know anything about it. All we had was this picture. So I gets on to a few intelligent people, some people far more intelligent than me, sent the picture off to them, Reptiles and places like that, and said, do you know exactly what this is? And it's amazing how many people come back with exactly the same answer. That's what we went with. So we knew there and then it was a Calotes Virsicolour. We knew where it resided from. We could then do all of our research to figure out exactly the care for it. It was a case of we needed to do this as quick as possible because while we hadn't picked this animal up, it was in the care of somebody else who didn't have an extremely great knowledge of this specific species. They didn't even know exactly what the species was. Now, I'm not bashing them or anything like that. It was a lad called Mike Webster and his kids, they're great. They're reptile enthusiasts, mainly towards snakes, and he was working at the place where it was found. The message was, it's been found at work, and he caught it. Being a reptile lover himself, he caught it, took it back to his house, because he knew he could look after it until someone could look after it. That just gives it that extra bit of time. So that was a bonus, so shout out to Mike Webster for doing that. We got all the information we actually needed. We knew everything, we'd set up an enclosure for it. Now, the thing we didn't know is we just set it up with a quarantine enclosure / bioactive enclosure. Sort of because we wanted to keep that extra humidity, but we didn't want to have to do wet paper towels and stuff. And then it come round to the time of the next day, finishing work. Right, let's go around and get it. Head round there, picked it up. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely what we thought it was. And then he tells us the story behind where it's from. Because officially, to start with, I thought it was a released pet. I generally thought it was a released pet because you ain't going to see one of these around the UK. You're just not going to see it. And I went on this big rant. I did a video about how Facebook stopped selling reptiles, so now people don't know how to rehome their animals, so they're just letting them go and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of ranted about that. Lo and behold, we picked it up the next day, and it was nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. It turns out he worked at a big worldwide wood company, shall we say. Now, because I'm not naming names, I want to keep it as vague as possible. And they opened up a shipment of wood that come from South Asia, and out popped this lizard. That's where it come from. So it's classed as a wild stowaway. Funnily enough, the lads at the wood warehouse where it had come from named it Travis after the company. Oh wait there, I'm not supposed to do that. Ha! So we got him back to the partner at the time's house. We let it go in the enclosure that we'd set up, and we figured, right, we'll let him settle down for the night. We left a bit of heat on for a few hours just to build up the ambient temperature inside the actual enclosure, and then we shut it off for the night. It's a diurnal species, so it went dark, UVB went off, everything like that, and we just left it to sort of settle in for the night, so to speak. The next morning comes around, the lights come on, the heat comes on, the humidity starts to build in the enclosure, and right, we can really start studying this animal now. Because we had a few little problems that with a wild stowaway, you have a lot more problems than you would do just a general animal that you've got from a shop. We had to try and transition this animal from its natural wild diet to what we can provide him in captivity, because we can't provide him the exact same food that he had in the wild. So it's a case of trying to figure out exactly what he would eat, basically. We tried a few things to start with. We tried mealworms, we tried crickets, we tried fruit flies, we tried loads of different things. And then I'm asking a few more people that are far more knowledgeable than me. A few of them are coming back with a few little silly answers, a few which I've tried and didn't really work. Then I spoke to a friend of mine, JTB Reptile. Shout out JTB Reptile. He's got a great channel, and at the minute he's really concentrating on lighting, heating. So it's definitely worth checking out his YouTube channel. That's JTB Reptiles. He come back at me and said, try waxworms. In the wild, they would be up in trees eating grubs and stuff, so try that. Tried it, bang, straight away, smashed them. Yes, we've finally found a food source that he will eat. Now, this has taken a good 2 or 3 days, so it could have just been a settling in period sort of thing. But about 2 or 3 days later, he started to eat waxworms. So, right, we'll get some weight onto him now, and we'll just go from there sort of thing. So in the meantime, we're sat there thinking, well, how can you quarantine a wild animal that's a stowaway, but yet still keep the humidity up, still keep it natural, because it's got to be as close to his natural habitat as possible, or he won't eat. But yet we need him to eat, to get a fecal sample off him, to send it to the vets, just to check for internal parasites. At the end of the day, it's a wild animal. We needed to check this sort of stuff. How can we get it to feed if it won't feed, if it's not a naturalistic setup? So we went bioactive, basically. We went bioactive, quarantine. So it wasn't massively live planted, but it was live planted enough to do the general benefits that live plants have, intaking all the carbon dioxide, giving off oxygen, giving it cover, safe spaces, hiding places. We gave him a few branches, not too many where he'd get lost, but enough where we could keep an eye on him and he could still feel safe. And we just purposely put it that way. Just that was the best way we could come up with. And to this day, I still say that was possibly the best way to do it. Yeah. The next day, we get a fecal sample off him, straight down to the vets, all clear. I was over the moon. I was expecting all sorts of internal parasites and all this sort of stuff. No, all clear, crystal clean. Yes, we've got that result now. We can really start to work on it. So he's trying to sort of, if he's going to be a captive pet, and by this time her kids had really fallen in love with him, so we wanted to make him a bit more handleable and make him realise that I am not a threat. I'm nothing to be worried about. So we had his little corner with the plants. If he was down there, that's his safe spot. I am not going to disturb that safe spot. I'm not going to go in and grab him. But if he's up basking or on the light guard or walking around, if I put my hand in there and he jumps on me, he can come out for a play amazingly. He was an extremely quick lizard, very quick. He was jumping up the walls, climbing up the wallpapers, behind the sofas, everywhere. But we fully expected that. At least he had energy, which was an amazing sign. And we just keep working from there and there and there. And we worked for a fair few months, really doing well. He was becoming more and more handleable, and the inevitable happened. Me and the girl at the time separated. One thing led to another. It was a sort of mutual agreement, and we separated. Now, what do we do with Mushu? Now, at the time, with the work that I was doing, I couldn't really give him the required care that he deserved, so to speak. So she kept him there, along with her kids had fallen in love with him. So it was just, that was the best thing for that specific animal. With my work commitments, and I couldn't really care for it too much. I couldn't mist it down as much as he really needed, and I couldn't keep on top of his dietary requirements. And her kids loved them, and she could keep on top of all that. Absolutely perfect scenario for that specific species. So my work commitment stopped that. The next week I lost my job. So I could have took him in the end anyway. But I couldn't take him away from the kids. The kids had lost me, so I couldn't really take another thing away. So sort of thing, we left it as it is. Lo and behold, that was a couple of months ago. I get a text a few days ago saying, do you want him? Yeah. Okay then. She was contacting the RSPCA to try and rehome him. Well, we all know what the RSPCA would do with a non-native wild species. For those people from America, the RSPCA are basically a governing body for animal keeping, so to speak. They're the people you call if you see an animal getting abused. So I said, oh, no. I said, I mean, if you can't rehome or anything, I'd take him. I'd happily take him. So within 2 hours, I was straight there. Thank you, that'll do me. brought him back here, and I'll tell you one thing, it's been a couple of months since I've seen Mushu. Yeah, he's doing well. He's plumped up, really. He's got his natural body weight back, and he's really active, and he's not been handled much, so I've got to work on that if I want him handleable. Or I can really start bringing him on the channel, just doing loads of different stuff. But he's here. So what did I do when I first got him here? Set him up, got all the timers plugged in, I got everything set up. Then I checked his UVI rating, because I've got the new solar meter now, so I went round and checked that. Realised I kind of could do with either adding a reflector to his enclosure or a new UVB T8 bulb. That's not a problem. But because of that, it's going to be a week or two before I can get a new bulb. I've added a few more branches to get him a bit higher up to the UV if he so feels like he wants to, which he has done. He's up there now. I've added a few more live plants in there, courtesy of Reptile Systems. They gave me a load of plants last time I went for a visit down there, so I've added a few plants in there. He's absolutely loving it. I've made his substrate a little bit deeper because the plants that were left in there have grown a bit more, so I've added a load more substrate in there. I've added another set of cleanup crew in there because his cleanup crew seems to be a bit less than what it actually was. So I've added a ton more springtails in there, a few more isopods, a bit of leaf litter, and this is Mushu.